Hi, Miss Kinsey. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to interview you and ask you a few questions today about your job and what you do. Um, so to get started, could you please introduce yourself and talk about what you do a little bit?
Okay, my name is Vanessa Kinzie, and I'm a registered nurse, and I practice diabetes education.
Thank you. Now, just to get started into your job, how would you define your background and your career? What did it look like when you were choosing your career, and how did you get into what you do now?
Yeah, so really kind of fell into it. So, what happened is I was a bedside nurse for several years, and I used my role there in the float pool. So, I did a variety of different roles within the hospital. And then one day, my boss asked if I would be willing to go and do diabetes education because they were trying to expand that program at the hospital where I work, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty inspiring to hear, especially for students who may not know what they want to do yet.
It happens that
So,
way sometimes where you just, suddenly something opens up and you try it and you really like it.
yeah, and would you say that that's common within the medical field?
I do think that a lot of times the exposure is important because without the exposure to different roles, you don't necessarily know. You just kind of start doing one thing and think that that's what you have to do. And then you realize, especially with nursing, that there's a lot of different spaces where you're useful.
Yeah, I think that nurses can be super overlooked sometimes, and I think that they're very important, especially within the medical field. So, how would you describe the people that you work with?
So typically, these referrals come in from physicians, and we have a protocol at the hospital that allows nurses to also reach out for a diabetes nurse consult. And basically, it's people who are coming into the hospital and they recognize through lab work that their diabetes is not managed well at home. So we're trying to find out like where do they need that help? Where do they need that education? Is it through nutrition? Is it through their medications? What's keeping them from staying under control? Because when they're out of control, then what happens is the rest of their disease processes are worse because their diabetes is out of control.
Yeah, and would you say that your job can be emotionally overwhelming at some times? And what impact does it have on you as a person?
Oh, sure, because you want people to do well, right? But it's that old saying, you can lead them to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? So it's one of those things where in education aspects, that's difficult because you're trying to provide the information. You know that the information is, evidence-based practice, so it works. They just need to apply it. And so sometimes you want it more than they do. So emotionally, that's hard. Sometimes you take that home and think, did I do everything? Could I have handled that differently? But overall, I would say that you can't take that on personally. You just have to do your best.
Yeah, and because of that, would you say that you've created strong bonds with your patients or those that you work with?
Yeah, I have. And so, that is something where I think emotional connection is important. If you are a nurse or in the medical field and then you lose your compassion for people or you lose your ability to make those connections, then maybe it's time to find another place for your skills because I think you have to have that. If you can't build those connections, you haven't made that bond where the person feels like, they matter.
And would you say that that's an essential trait to possess within the medical field?
Yeah, I do. I really think it's important. You have to have not only passion for what you do and what you believe in that you're doing, that it's going to make a difference, but you have to like people because when people are sick, they're at their worst. It's not always the best. And you can feel used or abused in your role. But I think overall, if you can just show compassion and understanding that, hey, I realize you don't feel good right now, but this is going to help you feel better, then people are willing, they're willing to have that relationship with you.
Yeah, and I think anyone could see how important that is and why it's important. But thank you for emphasizing that. So, how would you define being healthy within your field specifically in terms of nutrition or diabetes, etc.?
Yeah, I think that there's like a societal thing with being healthy, right? It means you have to be a certain size.
Hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I do think there are healthy weights for certain body types, and I do think we have to watch that because we know that disease like diabetes affects people that are overweight and that kind of thing. I think being healthy means making sure that you're using diet and exercise, you're using food as fuel, right? So you're using the right types of foods to give your body the best chance at good, optimum nutrition. Also, exercise, it doesn't have to be labor intensive or a drag, right? It doesn't have to be going to the gym. It can be doing fun activities like dance or enjoying like going to the park with your family or finding activities that you like and enjoy and incorporating that. Just move more than you sit is mainly the thing. So I think as far as being healthy, um, I also think that mental health incorporates in that too, right? So you have to have those good headspaces, but using diet and exercise can really affect your mental health and keep you feeling clear and happy.
Yeah, I think it's important that you brought up mental health and how it connects to the physical well-being of the body. And so tying that to the physical body and nutrition, what would you say that some of the biggest misconceptions are within your field specifically?
Well, related to diabetes, I feel like a lot of people think, well, that means I can't have anything sweet ever, right? And it doesn't. It means all in moderation. You can't have lots of sweet things because your body doesn't metabolize it well. But it doesn't mean that you can't have it sometimes or on a day that your blood sugar is, being managed well. So one of the things I really teach is just, stick with your proteins and your veggies, add in a little bit of starch and just spread it out throughout your day. Make sure you're moving more. And then if you want to have something like I'll mention, let's say you go to a birthday party and you want to have a piece of cake, then just don't have any starch on your dinner plate. Have just your meat and veggies. And then your trade off is that then you get to have a small piece of cake. Same thing happens like the holidays when people are like concerned about like how do they celebrate Thanksgiving and not get their pumpkin pie. Same thing, don't have all of the potatoes and the stuffing, right? Stick with the meats and the veggies in a big salad. And then if you want that piece of pumpkin pie, you can have a small piece. And then that's your trade off.
Yeah, I think that's important for a lot of people to hear, specifically the youth, because of a lot of the misconceptions that go around, especially through social media or through school areas or anything like that. And a lot of doctors have also emphasized that the body develops at a young age. And because of that, what would you say are a few simple habits that can uh, make bigger impacts on the body's health?
Yeah. So I think that, it's finding those things that you like so that it's not a chore. So if you like broccoli, but you hate cauliflower, well, then eat broccoli. If you like salad, but you can't handle spinach, you can do that. You can have a salad of lettuce greens instead of the spinach. So find things that you like that are still good for you and then incorporate those because I'll have patients who, are very picky about their types of vegetables. That's fine. Then let's find the ones that you do like and then use those so that it doesn't feel like a chore. The other thing is, as we mentioned this earlier, just move more than you sit anymore. We still eat like we're on the farm, right? Like we're out there pitching hay and doing really aggressive work, but really we do a lot of office jobs or we have illnesses that make us very immobile. So I think that if we would realize that we only need to eat what we need to sustain to the next meal, and that we don't need to eat like we're out there doing these big, hard work, then we would eat less and then we could move more so that we have a better equal trade off between the nutrition and the exertion.
Yeah, I like that you brought up mindset and how that has to do with diet and just taking care of the body overall. And I know there's a lot of stigma around working around that and with eating disorders, especially. So, how would you say that someone could be less hard on themselves in terms of creating a balanced meal or um, working around any issues they have with that.
Yeah, I think we can get really fixated on that, especially in this culture. We hear a lot of things like do this, don't do this. Eggs are good. Okay, eggs are bad. Oh, eggs are good again. There's a lot of different things out there. I think that if you have an eating disorder, you need to seek help because you need guidance. You need to either be referred to a dietitian or you need to work closely with your doctor to try to, overcome that. Get the counseling that you need. There's nothing wrong with seeking help to take care of yourself. Okay, I think that's actually takes a lot of strength to admit that you need the help to do that. So building a balanced diet really just kind of comes down to people can use the plate method. And so it's one of those things where you just have a half a plate of vegetables and you can have those either cooked or raw, whatever you like. And then you add in just a small, like maybe half cup portion of your starches and use whole grains like rice, pasta, potatoes, and then make sure you're having your protein. And again, you might have to have your doctor help you with how much that those are in portions, but I think that that's an easy way to kind of balance a meal without overthinking it.
Yeah, I find that really important. And because of that, do you think that schools could work harder to initiate more programs or events that promote well being or promote healthier lifestyles?
I do because I think again, like you said, it starts young, right? I think the other thing is that sometimes people just don't know. It's the lack of education. It's the lack of being taught. And so if it's not taught at home, then I think the schools and institutions have a responsibility to provide that education. Um, because, again, we're talking about sometimes affordability plays a factor in there. And it doesn't have to be expensive to eat right. It's just understanding how to do it within that budget or within that responsibility of saying, hey, I'm the parent. This is what, we're going to try to have because we need to incorporate more vegetables in our diet. Or, you know, um, I think that schools could provide more healthy options because if people are hungry, they're going to eat what's available. But if you always make the bad stuff available, that's what they're going to take.
Yeah, and I think that connects back to encouraging balance and maintaining a healthy mindset. Um, so why would you say that it's important to not just keep ourselves healthy, but maintain a healthy community between all of us?
Well, I mean, you think about certain areas where the whole community is healthier, right? That those places thrive, right? There's not mental health thrives there and people thrive there because the community's out and about, they're involved with another, they're showing compassion for each other. I think a healthy community is imperative for a good society because if everybody is, worn down and sickly, and I think you struggle to have the momentum to make your community a great place.
Yeah, I think that's important. And because of that, do you think that communities can work to initiate certain organizations or programs that can make an impact on these problems and promote health equity?
They can, but I think it takes a lot of work to get there. I mean, we need to even change about the way and how our food is processed, and that goes all the way to the top. But it's a struggle to get there because there's barriers and there is financial issues that are a barrier to getting to that point, right? But I think one small step at a time, if we can just teach families to eat better and individuals to eat better, then the demand for better food um, is going to require some of those changes at the political level that will make us have, better access to things like that. So, yeah, I do. I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense too. But do you think individuals within the community should be more aware of these issues through research programs or just basic studies?
Well, I think there's already a lot of research. I'm not saying that there shouldn't always be more because we can always learn new things. But I do think that sometimes that the information that is available isn't utilized properly. It's just people feel stuck whether it's even in the political game of just trying to initiate better quality food. It takes a lot of moving parts to make those things work correctly.
Yeah, I think that's very important too. Um, and so moving into your advice and your perspective as a nurse, what advice would you give to a student who may not have access to the healthiest foods at home on their own?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if there is peanut butter available and there's apples available, you can make dip your apples in peanut butter. If you have an allergy to peanut butter, you can use other nut butters as an option. There's always like carrot sticks and things like that. If you like ranch, you can use a little bit of that, to help with that if it's not like, oh, I don't just enjoy loving biting on carrots and celery, right? Um, Cheese is an option because if you use cheese, you could pair that with some grapes or something. So other than grabbing chips and processed bagged items that are always available, try using fruit and vegetables as a side snack that you can kind of combine with things that you like to kind of make it a little easier, more palatable.
Yeah, thank you. And would you also say that that's also a way to stay consistent with eating habits, especially as busier students, like us IB students?
Yeah, I mean, you need to fuel your brain, right? You're tired and you have a lot on your plate. So, staying healthy and eating properly is going to give your body that best chance for your cellular level work on your brain, right? And so, high blood sugar and a poor diet make you tired and sludgy feeling, and you just don't have the energy. And you wonder why, oh, it must be a sleep. It may not necessarily be sleep, it could be the way you're eating and how you're fueling your body.
Yeah, and would you say that these small changes can lead to a bigger impact overall over time?
Yeah, I mean, even in my own life, I mean, I have struggled with my weight going up and down just over time with, being young and active and then being a little less active in college and then having a family and then the demands that life has for adults. I just think that those small changes, like just walking on your break time if you can, or choosing a healthier snack over time, they make a big difference because gradually that becomes a lifestyle. And then you don't really see it as a diet or a chore or anything like that. It's just part of what you do.
Yeah, and I think that's super important for students to hear, especially right now during testing and all that. Well, it's very busy.
Well, and I would say even plan ahead if there's a chance that, if you don't have help at home with trying to make healthy choices, if you can bag your snacks in advance, you could do 2 or 3 days worth of something in advance. Cheese, holds out. You could get some cheese cut up into little baggies and then you can just grab an apple on your way out. Or if you don't have that access at home, come to school. There's always bowls of fruit and things like that. And you can grab from that and add it to what you do have at home that you can supplement.
Yeah, and going back to you, um, again, for especially the young individuals within the community, what's one piece of information that you wish more people would take into account while eating?
I think that we do a lot of mindless eating. So being more conscious of when you sit down to eat, like don't do distracted eating if you can help it. Don't watch TV while you're eating because you eat way more than you needed to because you don't wait for those cues from your brain to say I'm full. So mindful eating. Make sure that you sit down, that you put your fork down in between bites, that you think about what you're eating. Do I really need that? Have I waited to see if I'm full yet? Like I will sometimes, I have a couple of my kids, they'll be like, oh, mom, I'm going to go back for seconds. I'm like, hey, why don't you just wait 15 minutes? If you're still hungry, then go back. But if you're not, then you knew that you didn't need that extra. And so it's just one of those things. I think being mindful, taking the time, slowing down, chewing your food, not just swallowing a whole.
Yeah, and is there anything that you'd specifically say to those who are struggling with their diet or nutrition?
I would say don't make it stressful, but you do need to take care of yourself now while you're young. In my role, I see a lot of people that wish that they had, but they always think they're invincible. It's not going to happen to me, or it will happen a lot later and I'll be fine, or that's what happens to old people. it happens to young people too. And so the better you take care of yourself now, the better you're going to have of your independence when you are older, or your health. People will tell you that if they could change something, I have patients that sometimes they were diagnosed with diabetes at a young age and they did not manage it because they didn't want to, or they didn't care, or didn't think they needed to. And now they're only 45 and they're blind and they're on dialysis because they did not take care of themselves. So my biggest thing is yes, understand how important it is to take care of your body now. And then hopefully you won't have these issues or comorbidities or things that happen because you didn't take the time to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and thank you for that. So finally, um, in terms of the community, going back to the community, how would you say that individuals who are more aware of the barriers that others face makes an impact on our health overall as society?
Hmm. Let's see. The awareness of the barriers. So I think we have to not assume if we have privilege that everybody has the same access, right? I think it's really important to realize that everything can look good on the outside and not necessarily be good at home, or that the access is not there. And so I think, again, that comes from compassion for others, right? And just understanding that there are people that don't have access to healthy options. And I think that um, this goes back to like the policies and things of our communities of if we didn't have fast food on three corners of every corner, right, then maybe the options would be better for people than thinking that that's a meal. Going and getting hamburger and fries is not really a meal. Those things are full of fat and salt, and they over time, it's okay to maybe have it once in a while, but most people don't do that. Or having people with less options think that that's the only thing they can afford. But you can get quite a few vegetables and fruits and things for a decent price sometimes. And if you can't afford fresh, get frozen because it's just as good for you, and it lasts longer. So I do think that having understanding and the support is just understanding that not everybody comes from the same place. And we shouldn't judge people by their appearance or any of that because we don't really know what's always going on that they can't control. And so, again, just healthy communities supporting one another.
Yeah, and I think that's super important for the youth to hear, especially our generation and these schools, everything that goes around nowadays. But thank you so much for sharing all of your information about what you do and what you work with every day. I've learned so much about not just diabetes, but the community and health
Yeah,
overall
for
from
sure.
this conversation. I'm sure many other students have as
You're
well.
welcome. I was glad
Thank
to
you for
be with you
joining.
tonight. Yeah. Okay.